Hello ladies and gentlemen, Tevaron here, and welcome back to the Amonkhet set review. Today we will be evaluating the multicolored cards of Amonkhet. And you know what? Why not? Since there are only about half of the number of colorless cards as are in the other groups, let's just do them as well. And just as a reminder, these are my opinions and raw card evaluations, having never actually played with the cards before. If you would like to check out the previous reviews, just click the link in the description or the small pop-up in the upper right corner of the video. Strap in, guys, it's going to be a bit of a long one. Let's say we start with all the dual-colored Aftermath cards. Cut to Ribbons. Cut is 1 and a red for a sorcery. Cut deals 4 damage to target creature. Ribbons is 2 black and X. Each opponent loses X life. Okay, remember Electrify from the red review? Yeah, Cut is what Electrify wishes it was. Sorcery speed, sure, but at 2 mana that's not as big a detriment. And throw Ribbons into the mix and you have a 1-2 knockout combination of removal and win condition in 1 card. This gives any deck playing it a ton of reach. Destined to Lead. Destined is 1 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. Lead is 3 and a green for a sorcery. All creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. This is an okay card, the lead half being much more interesting to me than the Destined side, as it can enable an Alpha Strike pretty easily with its lure effect. Casting both in the same turn on the same creature means that you aren't even losing your sacrificial lamb. Heaven to Earth. Heaven is green and X instant. Heaven deals X damage to each creature with flying. Earth is 2 red and X sorcery. Earth deals X damage to each creature without flying. This is a pretty powerful and versatile board sweeper, and though not as good as some of the sweepers in other colors, definitely relevant in this color pair, though in a lot of circumstances you'll need to cast Heaven for 0 so that you can cast Earth, as flyer-heavy decks are a bit more rare. Onward to Victory. Onward is 2 and a red for an instant. Target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is its power. Victory is 2 and a white for a sorcery. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Well, if Victory were also instant speed, we might have something here. But it's not. So we don't. Pity. Prepare to Fight. Prepare is 1 and a white for an instant. Untap target creature, it gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink until end of turn. Fight is 3 and a green for a sorcery. Target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. Again, I'm not a huge fan of combat tricks, but this one does have a real 2-for-1 thing going on. Helping your creature win actual combat, then later allowing you to have some fight type removal. I can certainly see this seeing some amount of play. Rags to Riches. The Rags half is 2 and 2 black for a sorcery. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Riches is 5 and 2 blue for a sorcery. Each opponent chooses a creature he or she controls. You gain control of those creatures. I'd like this card to be good. I really would. But in a sideboardless world, there are just too many instances that Rags will be a do-nothing spell. And Riches will be very hard to set up so that you aren't getting a worthless creature out of it. Too much work for a card with too much variance against it on both halves. Reduce to Rebel. The Reduce half is 2 and a blue for an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. Rebel is a sorcery for 2 and a red. Up to 3 target lands don't untap during their controller's next untap step. If only Reduce was Mana Leak. If only. Then it would be playable on its own merit. As it is, I'll choose Spell Shrivel over this every time, especially since the Rebel half of the card may as well not exist. It's really bad. Spring to Mind. Spring is 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Mind is 4 and 2 blue for an instant. Draw 2 cards. Yeah, the uncommon Aftermath cards aren't really getting there, are they? Spring is easily outclassed by better ramp spells, and despite it being an instant, I'm never going to be happy paying 6 mana to draw 2. Start to Finish. Start is 2 and a white for an instant. Create 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens with Vigilance. Finish is a sorcery, 2 and a black. As an additional cost to cast Finish, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. Well, this is a bit more like it. End of turn, make 2 1/1s with Vigilance, untap. Sack 1 to kill the opposing creature of your choice. It's not the best rate on a removal spell, but certainly not the worst. It's quite versatile. Shame, though, that the tokens don't have relevant creature types. Alright, that does it for the Aftermath cards. Now on to the gold-bordered cards. On Crop Champion. 2, a green and a white for a 4/4 human warrior. You may exert on Crop Champion as it attacks. When you do, untap all other creatures you control. Well, a 4 mana 4/4, while not being anything to write home about, is certainly okay. And this certainly makes Exert seem more viable, doesn't it? It does dictate what colors you need to be, which is a little sad, but I really think any Exert-heavy strategy is going to need to run these in its arsenal. Aven Wind Guide is 2, a blue and a white for a 2/3 bird warrior with flying and vigilance. Creature tokens you control have flying and vigilance. Embalm of 4, a white and a blue. While a bit of an unimpressive body on its own, Aven Wind Guide may be the linchpin needed to really pull together token strategies. If you're looking for a 4-drop to include in your token deck, I highly recommend considering this over Anointed Procession. Bounty of the Luxa, however it's pronounced. 2, a green and a blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, remove all flood counters from Bounty of the Luxa. If no counters were removed this way, put a flood counter on Bounty of the Luxa and draw a card. Otherwise, add a colorless, a green, and a blue to your mana pool. Well, it really is sad that you get nothing out of this the turn that you cast it. That said, every turn after, it does its thing with no further upkeep required. There may be a ramp or control deck that can make use of this card, as both of its effects are quite powerful. It's just a matter of not getting too punished for the turn you took off to cast it. Decimator Beetle is 3, a black and a green for a 4/5 insect. When Decimator Beetle enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever Decimator Beetle attacks, remove a -1/-1 counter from target creature you control, and put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature defending player controls. Well, here is the figurehead of the -1/-1 counter strategy. Even outside of that deck, it's a fine inclusion. The way the ability is written, you don't have to remove a counter to give a counter. They are 2 separate things. So, as long as your opponent has a targetable creature, you have a -1/-1 counter to distribute. Enigma Drake 1, a blue and a red for a star 4 Drake with flying. Enigma Drake's power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Well, spell-heavy decks have really gotten some new toys to try out in this set, and Enigma Drake is the cock of the walk, if you'll excuse the expression. 4 toughness is pretty big game here, as it dodges a lot of damage-based removal, including an opposing Dynavolt tower. Hepatra, Vizier of Poisons. A green and a black for a 2/2 legendary human cleric. Whenever Hepatra, Vizier of Poisons, deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create a 1/1 green snake creature token with Death Touch. While certainly more fragile, This is a bit more in line with the kind of payoff card I want in a -1/-1 counter strategy. It still makes you 1/1s, but these have death touch, and are snakes, which is an upside if any further snake tribal synergies come to us in Hour of Devastation. Again, it is worth noting that the way these things are worded on the card, no matter how much Hapatra deals to the opponent, you will only get one -1/-1 counter to distribute, and no matter how many -1/-1 counters you put on a creature at once from one effect, you're only going to get one green snake creature token with death touch. Still, I think Hapatra is pretty good. Honored Crop Captain. A red and a white for a 3/2 human warrior. Whenever Honored Crop Captain attacks, other attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. Quite a good card in a red-white aggressive strategy. The downside is that black-red just looks so much more powerful right now, at least in my opinion. There's always Mardu, of course, but I'm not sure at this point why you would want to lower your consistency with a third color when so many quality options are already available. Kenra Charioteer is 1 red and a green for a 3/3 Jackal Warrior with Trample. Other creatures you control have Trample. Well, Trample is pseudo-evasion, so if you're looking to build aggressive or mid-range Gruul, then you will certainly like the extra reach that the Charioteer brings to the table. And it's not the only boost that that strategy is getting in this set. Just wait a couple cards. Perhaps Gruul monsters will rise again. Merciless Javelineer is 2 black and a red for a 4/2 Minotaur Warrior. For 2 generic and discard a card, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. That creature can't block this turn. Though it certainly looks like this is a card that slots into the black-red Hellbent deck, I'm not convinced of that. It's a mediocre body that's a bit slow and competing for the same spot on the curve as both Grim Strider and Heartpiercer Manticore. Perhaps in a straight Minotaur strategy, though I'm also unconvinced that that is a viable strategy. Neheb the Worthy. 1 black and a red for a 2/2 legendary Minotaur Warrior with First Strike. Other Minotaurs you control have First Strike. As long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, Minotaurs you control get +2/+0. Whenever Neheb the Worthy deals combat damage to a player, each player discards a card. Well, worthy is certainly the appropriate term. Neheb is a powerhouse of a card. There's a note here. Be sure to mention Minotaur strategies. Okay, noted and mentioned. Where Neheb really wants to be, though, is Black-Red Hellbent, where he enables everything else the deck is trying to do, and will be a 4/2 First Strike a large percentage of the time. Move over. Nissa, Steward of Elements. For a green, a blue, and X, we have a Planeswalker Nissa with X loyalty. Her +2 ability is Scry 2. For 0, you look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card or a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of loyalty counters on Nissa, then you may put that card onto the battlefield. -6 loyalty, untap up to 2 target lands you control. They become 5/5 elemental creatures with flying and haste until end of turn. They're still lands. Well, Nissa is certainly interesting. The first ever Planeswalker with an X in its casting cost. And she doesn't protect herself. There, I said it. I'm sorry, but it needed to be said. A Planeswalker that doesn't protect itself is generally not a very good Planeswalker. Nissa, however, is just different enough to give me pause. She ticks up very quickly, and her 0 ability should hit a good percentage of the time in a correctly constructed deck. Her -6 ability is close to being a fireball. I'm just not sure about her at this point. I'm leaning towards not amazing, but I hope that I'm proven wrong. Samut, Voice of Dissent. For 3, a red and a green, we have a 3/4 legendary human warrior with Flash, Double Strike, Vigilance, and Haste. Other creatures you control have Haste. I'm not done yet. For a white and tap, untap another target creature. Well, this is what you get when you let the interns design a card by throwing darts at a board full of keywords. Samet is an absolute monster. A gruel monster, if you will. She flashes, she dashes, and makes your other creatures dash as well. And if you're willing to splash red in your white-green exert deck, she can untap your exert creatures. Don't feel obligated to play white in your gruel deck with her though. She's just fine even if you never activate her untap ability, though it is nice to be able to do so. Shadowstorm Vizier. For a blue and a black, we have a 1/3 human cleric with flying. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Shadowstorm Vizier gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Again, I'm not sure this is the exact direction I'd want to go in a blue-black cycling deck. That said, it is a much better option than Hecamus Sentinels, and may be necessary to make the deck viable, in which case, I gladly welcome our Shadowstorm Overlords. Timid, Vizier of Noctamon. For a white and a blue, we have a 2/2 legendary human cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target token creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. Embalm of 3, a blue and a white. Well, there is certainly token synergy here, though I'm not sure it's super strong synergy. It is worth mentioning that once you embalm him, he can boost himself with his triggered ability as he is a token. Probably good enough to get the nod on utility and staying power alone in the right deck. Wayward Servant. For a white and a black, we have a 2/2 zombie. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Hey, you. Yeah, you. I heard you're looking to build a zombie deck. Well, have I got a card for you. For the love of Richard Garfield, if you're running a zombie deck, run this card. It single-handedly makes zombies at least black-white, though Esper is a possibility too. This thing is very, very aggressive and represents a ton of quick damage. Brains are back on the menu, boys. Weaver of Currents. For 1 a green and a blue, we have a 2/2 Naga Druid. Tap to add 2 colorless to your mana pool. This seems like a very strong ramp card, and it's one that can also attack or block when not on casting duty. We may be about to see a renaissance of Simic big mana decks. Or not. Really, who knows? There are just so many cards to rate and evaluate. And my head hurts, and I'm tired of these persistent nosebleeds. I'm running out of tissues. Thank God this section is over. What? What do you mean, colorless cards? Oh God, I did say that, didn't I? Alright, just a second. It's okay, just gotta get something, alright? Just calm down. If we're going to do the colorless cards, then Daddy needs his medicine. I don't care. I need it. Oh, that's the good stuff right there. Don't you try to tell me what to do. I'm a grown man and I know my limits. That was an isolated incident. Do you want me to finish this? Well then, get off my back and let me work. Oh yeah, that's better now. Where are we? Oh yeah, the colorless cards, yes. All the monuments. Well, as you can see, all of the monuments give a casting cost discount to creatures of a certain color, depending on the monument specifically, and then an additional effect. The additional effects are Bantu's Monument. Whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Hazoret's Monument. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Kefnet's Monument. Whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature an opponent controls doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Oketra's Monument. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with Vigilance. Ronus's Monument. Whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Well, first off, the cost reduction isn't worth the value of a card by itself, so if the additional effect on the monument isn't great, then the card isn't worth playing. As such, I'm not sure that any of them are actually playable outside of Limited. If any of them are, though, it would most likely be Oketra's, since it provides tangible board advancement. Maybe Bontu's as well, though I much prefer this effect on a creature that can also attack, like the Wayward Servant. Perhaps there's a combo deck waiting to be enabled by Hazoret's Monument, but with card number restrictions and other factors in Duels, I kind of doubt it. All in all, these cards aren't terribly exciting. Luxa River Shrine. For 3 mana, we have an artifact. 1 and tap, you gain 1 life. Put a brick counter on Luxa River Shrine. Tap, you gain 2 life. Activate this ability only if there are 3 or more brick counters on Luxa River Shrine. No. Just no. 1 life is too little to gain for the investment, and the 2 life gain requires even more investment and takes too long to get going. This card is terabad. I think I need another dose. Oracle's Vault is 4 mana for an artifact. 2 generic and tap. Exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Put a brick counter on Oracle's Vault. Tap. Exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Activate this ability only if there are 3 or more brick counters on Oracle's Vault. So I like this card. I like that it says play and not cast. That lets you play lands. And once you hit 3 brick counters, it starts pitching you freebies. Now you need to be aware that you play all the cards it reveals at the speed they would normally be played, meaning it won't let you play creatures and sorceries on your opponent's turn, so probably best to activate it on your turn, and before you've played a land for the turn. In the end, it may turn out to be too slow a card for Constructed, but I think it's worth giving a spin to find out. Pyramid of the Pantheon is 1 mana for an artifact. Pay 2 generic and tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, put a brick counter on Pyramid of the Pantheon. If you have 3 brick counters on the pyramid, then you can tap it to add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool. And they say that I shouldn't drink. Where did this card come from? This is, again, way too much investment before you get a payoff. Maybe playable in an improvised deck as a bad prophetic prism. Oh, improvise hasn't been doing too hot, you say? Well, then maybe it's just bad. Hey, don't blame me, I didn't make the card. Jeez, you can't seem to please some papples. People. Throne of the God Pharaoh. 2 mana for a legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. Not great. I mean, if you got all these tapped creatures, then you're probably already winning, right? Right? Hey, if you got all these tapped creatures, you're probably already winning, right? Hey, you listening to me? Hey, where? Never mind. Yeah, if you're already winning without this, what was it? Throne of the God Emperor. Bit full of himself, if you ask me. Anyway, oh yeah, if you're already winning without this, then why is this in your deck? Huh? Something to think about there. That's good stuff. Watchers of the Dead. 2 mana for a 2/2 kitty cat. Exile Watchers of the Dead. Each opponent chooses 2 cards in his or her graveyard and exiles the rest. Well, if you really need a 2/2 kitty for 2 mana, then this is your card. The ability it might as well not exist. Not gonna do anything for you. It's a bad ability. No, we got lands too, do we? What's this? Cradle of the Accursed. Accursed. You know, I never really know which way to say that. I like the way accursed sounds. It's a desert. Not to be confused with a dessert, which is unfortunate. You can tap it for colorless mana. You could pay 3 and tap it and sacrifice it and make a 2/2 black zombie. But only sorcery speed. Maybe if the mana is super solid, play a couple in a zombie deck? Otherwise, I think I like Foundry. What? Foundry? What the hell is a Foundry? I like Foundry of the Councils better. Oh yeah, they say laughter is good for the soul. So's this. Always good to medicate. Medicate. Wink wink. Grasping Dunes. It's another desert. It adds colorless mana. Probably could have guessed that. For a colorless and tap, sacrifice it and put a -1/-1 counter on a creature. Also only sorcery speed. Lands that are removal are good. I mean, if your mana base can support the colorless, seems okay. Especially in that synergy thingy. You know what I mean, the deck that wants to put the thingies on the stuff and on their stuff and your stuff too. Oh, I'm a mess. Sun-scorched desert. And it's a desert. It says desert up there too. When Sun-scorched desert enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target player. Add a colorless to your mana pool. Bad card is bad. Tevaron smash. Please, listen to me. Please. Please. You love yourself, don't you? If you love yourself, don't play this card. It's bad. It's a bad card and you're better than this. Play good cards. For the love of God, play good cards. Respect yourself. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of all the things. What do I like the best right now? Whiskey. What do you like the best? I don't care. Leave a comment. Maybe someone will care there. Like the video? Or don't. Doesn't matter to me. I've been excellent to each other. And until next time, you're Tevaron.